Welcome back, everyone, to our podcast Unloaded. I'm Michael Seahorn
I'm Shannon Morrow.
and it is an absolute honor to be on episode 11.
Yes,
A
yeah.
little crazy, but here we are.
What's crazy about episode 11?
I'm an analytics guy, and I try not to get caught up in the analytics sometimes, but sometimes it's hard. Now that we created a podcast, I get like monthly newsletters from this platform that we are on, right? And it's got a lot of good hints and advice for podcasters on content creation. And I think the last one I got is like, congratulations, you guys have 10 episodes and you're above 80% of all podcasters usually cut out by, I guess, by episode 10. So
Or episode 4, I think you said
Same thing.
previously. Yeah. So when you say it's crazy that we've beat the analytics in a way, what do you mean by that?
I don't mean beat it. I guess, when we started out, any journey you start out, it's undetermined. The road is blank. It's a blank canvas. It's a blank path per se, right?
You're looking at the direction like, hey, I want to climb to the top of that mountain. Well, that mountain is that direction, and I can kind of see the top, and I think I might want to start on the east side. There's a little bit of knowledge as we embark upon journeys.
And then we know what life does. It punches you in the face a couple times.
Oh, shit.
Right?
Where'd the trail go?
Lose the trail, weather hits, can't get past this obstacle, gotta make a detour, go around. So
roll an ankle. Oh, no.
Yeah, hopefully you can get down on your own and not be embarrassed with a helicopter ride. But I think for us, with any journey, you and I think would be safe to say is we don't put a whole lot of expectation in the end per se. Since it is organic, we're just going through our journey as it relates to the podcast, right?
It's very present in this moment.
Yes.
Yeah, the future is not as clearly defined, and yet intentionally we choose to focus our attention on right now, this episode, what we're saying, what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's not like, when we started out, I said, hey, Shannon, we're going to try to get 25 episodes done right out of the gate. Like, we never even had those conversations.
And it seems like you're even a little pleasantly surprised that we've made episode 11 here.
I am. This is something that's been on my heart for years.
Yes.
We talked about it in some of our previous episodes. So each time we can sit down and do another episode, I'm just as excited as I was day one. So,
there it is.
It's exciting. Well, as we move into some of our new upcoming episodes, for any new listener out there, the first 10 episodes, because it includes our trailer, so 9 core, if you will, episodes, really laid a good foundation for our podcast, Unloaded, what it meant, what's behind the name. There's a special hour episode in there where we talk about how Shannon and I met. So it was a great start to lay a good foundation for the listeners out there on what we do.
Yes, and now that foundation is laid, we are entering what Michael has termed as a new arc. We have completed our first arc, the beginning, and now it's much more wide open. We don't have as much of a clearly defined game plan. We have agreed to, hey, let's even more so drop in, let this get even a little more gritty, a little more organic, and see what comes out.
And it's a great start this week because I think, well, just to be completely transparent, this was a very difficult week for myself, and just like when you forge a nice knife or a shiny new sword, it goes into the forge in the fire, you take it out, you bang on it, you shape it, back into the fire. And then you shape it some more and you bang on it some more. And if you've ever watched the process of these craftsmen when it comes to blade work, it's a phenomenal craft to watch. People take a square rectangle piece of steel and turn it into this, beautiful, knife. But it doesn't get to be beautiful until it goes through this reforging process, probably, I don't know, dozen times, 20 times. I guess it just depends, right?
It depends how strong you want the blade.
Sure.
And with your metaphor, the blade, okay, you're going to be heated, red hot, and banged on with a big hammer, and then heated and banged on and heated and banged on. And you finally, mostly feel like, I've taken shape. I have form. Look at me. I'm this beautiful knife, right? And then, and the water cooled down, hardened and all that. And you're like, I've arrived, right? No. Now we get to sharpen you. Now comes the grinding stone. And it's never like,
I think that I look at that, and I think, a lot of that applies to the way I look at my personal life and my personal journey is I get these moments where I feel like, man, it's been a couple good weeks. And I don't like saying it out loud sometimes because I'm like, cross your fingers, knock on some wood, don't jinx myself, right? But as life will have it, challenges are going to continue to come, right? And as I look at our podcast Unloaded, I feel like we're going into this new arc, if you will, of living this daily, right? Because that's what we're talking about.
The real of it.
The real. Not the philosophical, not the philosophy, but the real everyday stuff.
Yeah, that's where we're going. We spent our first arc, the previous 9 or 10 episodes, a little bit higher view, a little bit more philosophical or kind of abstract, like, hey, this is what we're doing, this is what we're about, this is kind of our methods and stuff. But now, like, okay, it's going to get more real, more concrete.
Yeah. So since our last recording of last week, this week, so the end of last week got a little bumpy for me, and then it continued into this week, and it got bumpier. And I don't want to go into details because obviously there's some things that I'm just not willing to talk about here on the podcast. But in generalities, when I deal with situations that have a direct impact on me, both mentally and spiritually, because that's what we're talking about, and physically too, because we know that the mental and the spiritual world, when you're going through difficult times, it will have an effect on you physically, whether it's you're just bone dog tired, you aren't sleeping well, or, man, I really tried to get a good workout in, it wasn't there, so I left. I just cut my workout short, right? So we do know that those things occur when we're going through something that's definitely having an impact on us mentally and spiritually, right?
Flare up of physical pain. We store so much tension in our bodies, and how that tension manifests physically. Yeah, that's real.
Right. So this week in particular, going through these difficult circumstances that I was challenged with, I feel like I had a couple wins in there, but also I had some losses in there. And for our listeners out there, when I say wins and losses for me personally, and Shannon will know what I'm talking about, is I really put a lot of energy into trying to stay in a neutral state, especially in my role.
Yep.
Especially with the things that I deal with, because it allows me to think things through clearly without having an emotional spike or burst or outburst, if you will, too, right? So when I say wins and losses for me personally, I just mean that I felt like a couple of them I handled well, and a couple of them I didn't handle as well as I think I could have in the moment. Yeah. But got to have grace for ourselves, because we are emotional human beings, right? Yeah. So it's just living with it daily is what we're getting ready to talk about over the next X amount of episodes. And I can tell you, man, that this week, man, I was getting forged.
kind of kicked your ass. Yeah, I see this.
Definitely kicked my ass this week,
Definitely
dude.
kicked your ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I may fill the listeners in a little bit, for many years, Mike and I had our regular therapy sessions every other week, and about every 2 weeks, Mike would come in, sit down, and it would be full on just hour of therapy for Mike. And since starting this podcast, now that has moved into that time slot considerably. And instead of Mike getting his regular hour of therapy every other week, now it's hustling in here, getting all the mics set up, getting the computer set up, doing the sound checks, and producing a podcast instead. But deep down, Mike's, I'm telling him about his psyche and subconscious right now.
It's all right.
You know, like, I can see that he could benefit from, he could use just to let some of that out, to like just talk about all the shit he's been going through the past couple of weeks, these experiences he's referencing, but he's containing it in here because he's in front of a mic. This is not a therapy session, and so it's kind of a different new experience for both of us, especially for Michael, who and me too, actually, as his therapist, I'm wanting to hear the stories. Like, hey, tell me what happened, man. Let's process this. And he's kind of wanting to process it, but instead we're both kind of just like hanging back because we're in front of mics like, oh, wait, but this is the podcast, not a therapy session. So thank you, listeners, for just understanding kind of where we're at with this and having patience for us as we are creating how this is going to be real time.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I honor that, Shannon. And I think this just really shows our listeners, like, this is the real deal. This isn't scripted in any way, shape, or form. Shannon has no idea what I'm going to talk about when I sit behind my mic. I don't know what he's going to say when he sits behind his mic, but I don't want anybody to ever feel that we're two dudes sitting behind a mic and we've got it all figured out. We have said that for probably the better part of half of the episodes we've already recorded. We're just two real people. We're two real human beings trying to figure out this crazy thing that we call life, just like everyone else, right? So by me telling our listeners that are listening right now, like, it's been a rough week, I just want people to understand, like, you and I still have rough weeks too.
Oh, yeah.
Right? We still need to unload.
Yeah.
We're still carrying our weight.
Mm-hmm.
And we're doing the best we can do with the tools that we've learned over the last X amount of time, whatever that X is. But
with the hope that doing this podcast is, in a lot of ways, simply modeling. Here we are. This is how we're working through our stuff. This is what we've learned along the way. We're offering it now. If it can be of use to anybody else, great. But it's just kind of us forging our way down the trail that others have forged. We're just in line. There's plenty in front of us, plenty behind us, all around us. There's many ways up the mountain.
Yeah, no, there is. And, just to be, again, transparent for our listeners, it's, when I go through a difficult situation or I'm having a doubt or maybe I'm not clear on my path, I handle those situations very differently depending on how I feel inside.
Oh, yeah, man. Our mood is paramount to how we can handle external situations. Right.
So I'll give people, this is real life example. So situation happened Wednesday. At the end of the day, I went home. In my truck, quiet. No music, no podcast, just me. Because I know intuitively, for me to be able to start my process to work through whatever it is, quiet time is paramount for me. And I know that's not for everybody, but for me, that's what I do. And I also want to make sure that on my way back to my sanctuary, my home, my property, I know that I have my family there, right? And I know that I am the temperature. I set the temperature. And we'll get into that another day, another time. But that's the analogy I've used over the years with my wife and my kids is if I set the temperature, I'm the thermostat. So if I come in the door all hot, fired up, and, just, well, what's that going to do?
Raise the temperature.
Of the house, of my wife, of my children, of my dogs, of everybody, right? So as I'm on my way home, I'm lowering my temperature to a point where I can just take some nice deep breaths, get back in the present moment of time, try not to make the situation bigger in my head than it actually is, right? So when I get home, I can come into the door at least at a level where I feel comfortable, if that makes sense.
That's a lot of intentionality around how you come in the door, how you present with your family in your home.
Right. And again, listeners, I want you to know this has been an 11-year journey for me. So I got to keep throwing that out there because I want people to grasp a hold of that work. But as soon as I walk in the door, generally this is what happens. I walk in the door, boom, 2 dogs are on me. My big dog, my little dog, they're all over me. They want that love and attention, right? And then the greetings to my wife, and by then my daughter's either home or working out or whatever she's doing. But as soon as I walk in the door, even though I have brought my temperature down, just like Shannon said today, as soon as my wife sees me, she knows.
Yeah.
She knows. And Wednesday I was still I had a lot of turmoil going on inside, just trying to process the day. So I opted that day to just get upstairs, change, and then headphones to the shop. My wife, dinner will be ready in about an hour. I'll let you know when it's ready. 10:04. Out to the shop. Tried to do some work. Unfortunately, a couple of phone calls came in, and I had to talk to a few people. One of them was my brother. Through chatting with my brother and unloading some of the weight with him, brought the temperature down some more. So what I'm trying to do in my process is bring the temperature down and keep bringing it down so I can get to a point internally where I could sit objectively at some point, whether it's in the evening or even tomorrow in the meditation time, bring the temperature down to a point where I can just say, okay, I'm good.
Wow.
Right?
So what's the difference of what you just described, like regulating, bringing yourself to, okay, I'm good, versus bottling it up? I'm really upset about what happened at work today. I'm in a lot of inner turmoil. I don't want my family to sense or bring that home with me. So I'm going to try to, quote, bring that down. But attempting to do that, what's the distinction? How can we manage it and regulate it in healthy ways versus just packing it away and then a day or two later it comes out very unexpectedly in ways that we might regret? Yeah,
so it's a good question. And I think that goes back to the analogy of what we talk about, stuff in your safe, right? If I keep pushing things into the safe like I used to do back in the day, I know intuitively that the safe fills up. When I push it out, it leaks out. You push it in, it leaks out. You push it in, it leaks out, right? And we know through the other podcasts and our other episodes, those spikes or those leaks, if you will, is where you get that drastic emotional response, right? For me, to answer Shannon's question, if I take something that I'm internally trying to deal with now in the present time, present moment, and I try to, quote unquote, stuff that in the safe, lock it away, I'll deal with it later. Generally what I find now is because of the practices that we've been doing together for 11 years, that's going to be okay for the evening. It'll allow me to get through the evening at a pretty normal, everyday mode, if you will. I'll get to bed. I'll sleep probably okay. But as soon as I wake up the next morning,
there it is.
Because of the disciplined routine that I've had for such a long time, It's the universe or God or whatever you will. It's the friendly reminder in the morning when I get my first cup of Joe and I want to go sit in some meditative time. It's there. It's like, hey,
Yep.
Hey, hello, hey. You didn't forget about me. That was only like 12 hours ago, right? So through my practices over the last 11 years, by morning time, it comes back and I know internally, I feel it in my heart, I feel it in my gut that, hey, we need to sit in this and we need to kind of now focused energy, if you will, focus on what the issue was yesterday. And Shannon has seen this in real time with me. I talk myself through the situation and then I look at, okay, during this situation, I had an emotional response. Why? Well, the person could have said ABC. And when they said ABC, I took it personal. Or maybe it hit a button of mine. Regardless if the person knows it's a button or not, but it's just a personal thing with me, right? So as I'm going through the situation in my mind, with my eyes closed, with intent and with energy, I'm looking at how I felt when it was the most uncomfortable.
Great. You go right. You, like you said, focused on that moment when you really got triggered, when it hit that pinpoint. And what you just described, this is part of your more than a decade of your practice, is what within me created that distress. I mean, because there's that external situation. And then yet, man, I got pissed. Okay, that's mine. That's my emotion. I'm going to take responsibility for that. Man, why did that piss me off so bad? Like, what's my old trigger around that? Oh. And what you just described, that self-evaluation, the self-awareness of like, instead of what most of us do most of the time, that a-hole, like, point the finger, blame the source, whatever it was that triggered us, well, it's their fault, whatever. And yet, no, through your maturity and work and growth to slow it down enough, just put a little space and then turn inward and like, why the hell did that get me so bad? That's, I think what you were describing.
Yeah. And just so the listeners know how I go through things, so I had an issue on Wednesday. I felt in my heart that it was still a little bit unresolved. Hindsight 2020, Thursday, I had to deal with it again. Another conversation about whatever it was. Okay, great. I think we're good. And then boom, third final conversation again this morning. So
wow.
In a 3-day span, it was 3 issues all revolving around the same thing. We just had to talk about 3 different times, right?
Wow.
So that's what I meant when I came in today, and I was like, man, it's been a week, bro. It's been a week, right? So, and today, just so listeners understand, so going back to when I said on Wednesday or Thursday morning, when I have to sit with it and I evaluate myself, why was I being triggered? What was I not seeing? What was I not understanding? I have to give myself a lot of grace because I am a human being like the rest of us, 8 billion people on the planet. We're all human beings. We all have emotions. But when I look at what triggers me, when I say trigger, I don't know if that's a good word, bad word. I don't know what kind of, it is what it is. But I just want to know why I felt discomfort and why I was feeling that I had to either defend myself, justify myself, or something, right? Because that's generally what I see in myself is that's when I feel the most emotion. Mm-hmm. Like I'm making a stand. Mm. This is why I'm taking the stand, which is, okay, fair. Yeah. But I need to understand that in here because I don't want something to take me so far one way, maybe so far the other way, where I then become so unbalanced that I can't see my own responsibility. Because that's what I'm trying to do in this lifetime is recognize how my body responds. How does it react to certain things? Because if I can't recognize it, I can't work on it. If I can't work on it, then I sit in the cyclic existence of
Huh.
suffering the same thing over and over and over and over again.
And we'll sit there a while. Cycles are normal, and then when we recognize them, and I've been doing this a little bit. Okay, I'm getting tired of this. Okay, we can see it a little more clearly. Okay, how can I adjust something? Keep changing things a bit.
Yeah, and again, after today, I now understand a lot clearer on the other side what they were feeling and what their intention was. But it took us 3 days to get there.
Yeah, and that's
Okay.
pretty good in just 3 days to gain understanding like you did. That's key, man. Understanding. We understand our stance generally, but to allow for others seemingly sometimes opposing stance. And what's that old saying? Just because we understand something doesn't mean we have to agree with it.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. And so what will happen now for me is after today, it'll give me a good chance to, over the next couple of days for sure, is to sit with the entire process and just work my way through the process. My intent behind that is to have a full understanding of what that felt like in the different days, and then put it all together in a big shiny picture, if you will, so that I can store that, and then I'll write about it, because we talked about I like to journal, and I'll write about it. And those big nuggets, man, if you will, those big moments for me that's where this growth is, man. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like doing this, dude. Like I don't wake up going, man, I hope I get a challenge today. I've never said that, ever. I've never woke up going, I'm ready. Give me what you got. I will never say that, because boy, you look out for what do they say? Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
But I do understand as a human being that this is life. Life is challenging, and life's not easy, and you're going to get punched around, and you're going to get bumped around, and that's what this is about.
It is mostly, especially this podcast, just dealing with the challenges, getting bumped around. And I just, sorry, me, just
Go ahead,
both
give it
sides.
to me. Give it to me, Shannon.
Zooming way out.
Way
Because
out.
when you say life is never easy, it's, we're getting punched around, and sometimes maybe it can be fairly relaxing if we want it to be, if we allow it to be, if we just, okay, yeah, how would it be to sit still, to simply enjoy the evening, to slow down enough. And I know I'm probably making a few listeners uncomfortable right now, even how slow I'm talking. And that's kind of the point, because narrative therapy, the stories we tell ourselves, we are creating our reality. And so when we are slugging through life saying, fuck, life is so challenging, life is so hard, life is such an ass kicker, we have to just take it, blah, blah, blah. And that's almost our paradigm we create about life, is just this gnarly, difficult thing to be endured. Yeah, sometimes it can be, for sure. Let's not take away that we never know what's coming down the pipe at us. We never know what tomorrow brings when we get that phone call, or we get that news, or that unexpected event happens, and like, oh shit, it's real, and it gets gnarly. And so, yes, life will continue in various ways to throw things at us. And at the same time, there's other moments in life, there's other days or even weeks that, actually, this was kind of chill. This was okay. There's nothing too crazy, not too much drama. And am I creating a little bit of drama? Am I looking for the next problem? Can I just let things be and maybe be a non-issue? Or do I have to keep making everything a fire? If I'm so good at putting out fires, am I looking for fires and setting fires?
Very good. I mean, it's well said, and Shannon is correct. Every human being, all 8 billion of us, or whatever the number is these days, everybody's going to have their own life, man. And everybody lives it in their own way, shape, and form. And, I because of my choices in my journey, in the path that I've chosen, this is part of my life. This is part of my journey. And I have a lot of good days. I mean, Shannon will tell you, I have a lot of good days, and I have we joke about it often in our session where Shannon's like, man, it's been a pretty good couple of weeks for you, right? And I honor those, and I love those. But, difficult times will shape you.
It's hard for you to hear me say that today. I apologize, Mike, because
Not
I
at all.
know the
Not at all,
effing week you've had, man. These last 3 days have been an ass kicker. Even culminating in this morning. I mean, just a few hours ago, you were in the thick of it, man. It was hot for you, and here you are just a few hours later now trying to do the podcast. And so apologies for, you're getting your ass kicked right now, and it's kind of trite of me now. Sometimes, and we can just chill, right?
Not at all. And that's why we work well together, is because Shannon does give me the opposite of the coin. Like I said episodes ago, is I wouldn't want it any other way. And, and it's also good to hear, it's a good reminder when you are in the thick of it and you are getting hammered on a little bit. It's good to have somebody like Shannon remind you, hey, man, it's not always like this, so it's a good friendly reminder, man. But I do appreciate your apology. Not needed, but I accept it, and I honor that, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an amazing time. Unfortunately, our time has come to an end here with episode 11. For everybody out there, I wish everybody the best. Enjoy your Easter weekend. Let's not forget that. It is Easter weekend, right? Is that
Not
this
anymore.
Weekend? Not anymore?
By the time this podcast drops.
We'll be after that.
Yeah.
So I hope you had a good Easter weekend, and however you celebrate that. We wish you all the very best. This is Mike Seahorn.
Shannon Morrow.
And we wish you all the very best.